Hello and welcome to the TRG Talk Digital Podcast. I'm your host, Rick Ivanovic. I'm the founder and CEO of TRG International. And with me today, I have Eric Wong, who is the Vice President of Infor Hospitality. Hello, Eric.
Hey, Rick. Thank you for having me.
Hey, no worries. Now, VP of Infor Hospitality. That sounds like a really big title. Now, I don't want you to tell me about Infor. I'm more interested in about you and your journey that has resulted in you being VP of Infor Hospitality.
Oh. Where should I start?
At the beginning?
At the beginning.
Okay,
Well,
50 years ago. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Well, let's start with when I started my professional journey.
Ooh.
Okay. I started out, I graduated from university in Canada, and I did a summer job with Deloitte and ended up working full-time for them for a number of years. I started in accounting and audit. So I'm a CPA by training.
Yay.
And this is going to be really interesting, an exciting podcast. After that, I went into Deloitte Consulting for a number of years. And I consulted for a multitude of companies, hydros, all the way to sports and entertainment. And at the end of one of my engagements with a sport and entertainment company in Toronto, I was asked if I'm interested in putting the plans, my recommendations into play. And I was like, you know, I've never implemented anything in my life, right?
Give advice, but can't actually excuse
So
it.
I was like, great idea. So yeah, I went into the company for 7 years, re-engineering the whole food and beverage organization within the company. Went into retail, went into corporate finance, and my last project was to bring a professional soccer team to Toronto.
Ooh.
And after that, I thought, hey, you know, an opportunity actually came up and to relocate to Asia. And I was like, if I stay with the Sport and Entertainment Company, which is a great organization, my journey will only be in North America. So I wanted to open my eyes, and back then I was still young and younger and naive. And so I was like, yeah, why not? Like, you know, we moved to Macau for a couple of years, and then to Singapore for a hospitality software company. And after that, we went back to Toronto to work for a digital payment company for a couple of years, and then I joined Infor back in Asia in 2014. So it's been 10 years since I've been with Infor.
Wow, that's an interesting journey. I want to go right back to the beginning. You said you graduated and then did an internship at Deloitte.
Yeah.
What did you graduate in? I'm just curious.
Actually, my degree was in commerce. So it's in general business. I did a focus in technology and finance. So my interest has always been in technology, and I did a lot of jobs and whatnot during school that's technology related. So yeah, so.
Okay, but was Deloitte a deliberate choice?
Deloitte was, it's interesting because after my second year, my sophomore at university, I worked for Citibank in their private bank as an analyst for the summer. And after that, the summer afterwards, back then, everyone wants to go work for the back then was Big Six, right? And I was fortunate enough to make an impression with the head of recruiting for Deloitte, and they recruited me as one of their. I think they recruited 4 or 5 summer students, and I was one of them. Yeah.
But what triggered this move from just giving advice
Mm-hmm.
to be saying, hey, why don't you actually try and implement it?
Well, I think one of the things and then I go back to something you talked about earlier today in terms of continuous learning.
Mm.
And I think, life is kind of like, I love playing golf, and it's like, after you learn how to play with a club, you want to learn different clubs, different shots, different skills. And I see that as like, a challenge to learn different skills, and giving advice, being able to do diagnostics, to do analyses and all that is one skill. To, be able to implement, to roll things out, to make things like happen, it's another. So yeah, it was a great transition to do that, and it was fun.
Okay, but that was when you went into this sort of, you said it's sports, yeah, sports
Yes.
and hospitality. That was your first taste of that, but then you did another pivot, or more continuous learning.
Yes, more continuous learning.
and you switched into solutions, software solutions.
Yeah. And I've never sold a dime in my life coming into software. And and funny enough, they wanted me to build a business. And again, that's a skill set that I think it would be great to have. And to build a business in Asia, because back then that's the software company I joined, I was employee number 1 in Asia. And we basically relocated to oversee a project and then build a business after that. So it was a fantastic experience. Like, yeah.
But why did they pick you? 'Cause isn't that a bit of risk? You've never sold
It's
anything
definitely
in
not for my
software
looks.
before. Was it the golf? Did you win?
Yeah. Well, why did they pick me? It's actually very interesting. I have to rewind a little bit, because like when I first joined the sports and entertainment company, the first project I did was to revamp the whole food and beverage operations. That included processes, that included technology. So one of the things I did was I introduced like point of sale technology and also recipe management and all that throughout the whole organization for food and beverage. And I engaged with a software company back then, and it was that software company 7 years later that they came with the idea and say, hey, we want to build a business in Asia, and they thought I would be a good candidate, and that's how it happened. Yeah.
They got that right. Yeah.
I hope so. I don't know.
But then you left them.
Yeah, and I stayed with them for 5 years, and we built a pretty, I would say, pretty decent business. We've won some amazing clients over the 5 years. Great experience. We went from only an office in Hong Kong to building up an operations in Singapore with 2 of the biggest integrated resorts in Asia being our clients. So it was a fantastic journey.
Fantastic. Now, do you consider yourself successful?
Well, I don't know how you define success. Everyone has a different definition. I would say I've been fortunate and blessed and with many opportunities. And I wouldn't say there are much more successful people than me. And I don't think, I chase after certain things. I think I'm grateful for the clients that we have and the relationships that, we've built. If you consider that being successful, then yes, I would say so. But, everyone has a different definition. It's hard to say.
So that's the real question behind the question. What's your definition of success?
What's my definition of success? I think being happy, being content with what you have, and to me, to have a happy family, to have good relationships with people, I think that's success to me.
So you're successful then.
I'm happy with where I'm at. I would say that. Yeah.
Okay. So that's great. So it's to you it's family and relationships.
Yeah. Yeah.
Family and relationships. So what advice would you give to someone maybe just graduating and looking at you and saying, "Whoa, there's a successful guy." What would you say to them?
I think I'd share with them, like, don't be afraid to try new things. You want to try as many new things as possible. There's no right or wrong. Everything will build on your experience toward the end. And you don't want to sit there when you're like in your 50s and say, hey, I wish I did that. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to fail. Because I think, like, failure doesn't define who we are. It helps build up to who the person is.
Okay. So what's a great failure that you had that taught you something?
Great failure that, ooh.
You only have to pick one.
I know. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think. I'll talk about something more personal. I say, like, I'm a pretty focused person. Like, if I set a goal, I'm pretty, like, laser focused on, getting to that goal. And, in the past, I might have been too focused on certain things. I'm a triathlete. I've done, like, triathlons for many years, for 10 years.
Wow.
And, for training and all that, like, I'm very focused. For work, I'm very focused. And at a certain point, I became aware, I was made aware that, like, I might have, like, been too focused on certain things, right? And I might have, like, left certain parts of my life being, like, just left alone. And it hurt some relationships and all that, but, that's a lesson I've learned, I would say.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. Triathlete. 10 years. What made you do that?
What made me do that?
Did you wake up one morning and say, "Oh, I want to be a triathlete"?
Well, it's funny how that happened, but it was like one day. It was like probably 14 years ago. My wife and I were walking our dog, and it started to pour, and we were running back to the apartment, and I think halfway through there, I was, like, totally out of gas. And I was like, man, I'm, like, out of shape. I need to get in shape. So I decided to start running. And then after the Singapore marathon, I ran the half marathon that year. And after the half marathon, I was at a friend's place, and we were drinking a little bit. And he's a triathlete. And he said to me, it's like, Eric, if you want to get in shape, sign up for triathlons. And tomorrow we'll all sign up for Ironman. I was like, no idea what an Ironman is involved. And after a few beers, I said, sure, we'll sign up for an Ironman. So the next morning, I signed up for an Ironman, which happens 11 months from then. And I started training. So I gave myself 11 months from barely running a half marathon to doing an Ironman.
A full Ironman.
Yeah. And that's, like, basically I started that. And then after that, that was 2012. And I just continued racing for 10 years or so. Yeah.
Well, so for those of our listeners who don't know what an Ironman is, okay, it's not that man of steel, with the red suit. It's this guy. Can you explain what an Ironman race is? What are the different components?
It's a man with an iron. Ironing shirts. Well, it involves 3.9 kilometers of swimming, 180 kilometers of biking, and then a marathon, 42 kilometers of running. That's a full Ironman.
Wow. And you did that for the first time after 11 months.
Yeah.
And how did that feel? I mean, you obviously survived it.
It was, triathlon also taught me a lot. It's about perseverance. It's about overcoming adversities. Because going to the start line is easy, but during the race, anything can happen. So you got to learn how to deal with the things that, come up during a race. During a race, I've had flat tires, all kinds of different things that you have to overcome. And sometimes you cramp, sometimes you, it's been a fantastic experience. I'm not saying everyone needs to go do an Ironman, but it's a great learning experience for me.
And what's motivated you to keep on doing it for a decade and more?
It's lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. I think it's I have a lot of friends who do it, and it's a camaraderie of people that I've hung out with, and it's funny because I find triathletes are very, very friendly people, because everyone knows you've trained so much to get to that start line, right? There's a lot of respect between each other. And if your bike breaks down, and I've had that happen to me, people would stop and ask you, "Hey, do you need help?" And
really?
yeah, it's a very, very great atmosphere to be in. So it's I enjoyed it, and yeah.
You're still at it?
Well, I haven't raced for 2 years. I was just telling someone, I was like, yeah, I haven't raced for 2 years. Partly because there's a lot of demands in my life, and training for Ironmans, and I've done 10 half Ironmans afterwards. But it's just about priorities. And right now, I think I prioritize doing certain things over racing at this point. Yeah.
Okay, so how do you continue to keep in shape? Because that's what triggered it in the first place.
Yeah, I still do exercises. I do, I run, I get on a bike every so often. I used to play a lot of golf. I've recently come back to golfing, so I golf a fair bit. So, yeah, I stay active, I think.
Active.
Yeah.
You're active,
yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
So can you consider, could you consider a time when you would stop to be active? Or is that not part of the playbook?
I don't think I will. I don't want to be, because if I stay at home and not go out or do anything, I get kind of agitated. So photography is another hobby of mine. So I go out and walk around and take pictures. When I travel, I love walking around the city. Yesterday and today, I went around Vietnam, Saigon, and taking pictures and all that. So I enjoy just going out, walking around, and doing things.
Okay, it seems like I know you're Canadian, and it's the great outdoors there. So how do you cope with that? And you're in Singapore. It's not exactly the great outdoors in Singapore.
Yeah,
there are mountains and woods to go through.
We do go home every so often, so there's a good balance. My son is 10, so he enjoys being in Toronto. So over the summer, he would go back and enjoy the outdoors and all that back home. But I still I'm fortunate enough to be able to travel for work. So I get to different cities, and I still go out and explore the cities and see a lot of things. So yeah.
Okay, what is the thing that you find the most favorite in your current job role?
I would say being able to make a difference in a lot of our customers' business and helping them be successful. That's something that I think is my favorite thing, and be able to build relationships with our customers and, not just a professional relationship, but a lot of times they become personal friends. I think that's something that I really enjoyed.
It sort of reminds me of circling right back to the beginning on some of the earlier questions of how relationships is important to you. So I heard family, I heard relationships. The third missing piece was the triathlon is getting out there. So there's a health and healthy outdoors. Maybe that's your Canadian background.
Maybe.
That's part of that balance. Now, you've been to lots of countries.
Yes.
You've had a range of roles in different industries.
Mm-hmm.
In business and work so far, what's the most unusual thing that's ever happened to you?
Most unusual thing. Well, doing a podcast. No, I think, let me think. Unusual thing. That's a tough one. I don't like. I mean, I've had a lot of unusual experiences. I can tell you. I can tell you, like, when we won one of our biggest contracts in Singapore with my previous company, we had no employees in Singapore. We had no office in Singapore. We were working on a demo on an ironing board in my hotel room till 3 a.m. But we managed to win the contract. That was a multi-million-dollar contract. That was pretty unusual, and no one expected us to do that.
Yeah, so maybe your joke about the Iron Man was...
it was on an ironing board. There was like 5 of us with laptops, everything on an ironing board, working till 3 a.m.
Love it.
But yeah, it was that was pretty unusual, I would say.
Sounds pretty unusual to me.
But yeah, I've been like, I would say I think it's unusual for, like, I have a lot of friends, like my previous bosses and all that. They're still really good friends of mine. I think that might be unusual. I don't know. To me, it's pretty usual because, like, all my previous bosses way back, like at Deloitte all the way through, we've all, like, we're still in contact. We're still, like, seeing each other on a regular basis. So, yeah.
Okay, that's good. So maybe that's your relationship thing. You're not burning any bridges, that's for sure, by the sounds of it.
No.
Not that you're sharing.
I hope I haven't burned any bridges. Like, I mean, like, I don't see any need for that. Like, I mean, the world is big enough. There's enough, like, customers or business out there that we can all win. We can all be successful in our own ways. So I don't see, like, any reason to burn any bridges.
Now, the previous question was, trying to root out some unusual thing that had happened in business. Let's forget about business and work.
Okay.
What's the most unusual thing that's ever happened to you outside business and work, in life?
Well, I'll tell you a good story. I'm a photographer, and I admire the work of a photographer out of Hong Kong. And he's probably, I don't know whether I can name names, but he's a very, very well-known photographer in Hong Kong, probably the #1 fashion photographer in Asia, or like he shoots for Louis Vuitton, shoots for Vogue and all that.
You can name names. I mean,
I don't want him to be like getting all these emails from people. So I'll tell you how I met him. Like, so, I admire his work and I have his book, and I was like, I'm going to Hong Kong. Maybe I'll email him and see. And not expecting someone like him to be responding to an email, he responded, and we met for coffee in Hong Kong. And we spent 2 hours talking about his career. He shot for movies and all that stuff. And he shot, like, and he's, like, for someone like him, he signed the book. And then at the end of the discussion, I asked him, there's a book that he's put out many years ago that's not available anymore. So I said to him, I was like, I really wanted that book, but it's not available anywhere now. And he looks at me, it's like, this is fate. The week before he saw me, a friend of his asked him for the book. He went into his storage. He found 2 copies. One copy went to his friend. The other copy, he said, if you want it, I'll give it to you.
Wow.
And he gave the book to me. And, you know, that's pretty unusual. And
Very
it's
unusual.
like, I think in this day and age, it's hard to find people who are so giving. Right? And he never, like I said to him, I was like, I'll pay you for it. Because like on eBay, it's like thousands of dollars, this book. And it's also signed by him, right? And he's like, no, I won't accept a single dollar. If you want to pay for it, I won't give it to you. So, you know, it's unusual. And, you know, it's, and he told me it's like, you know, because so many people have helped him during his, like, throughout his career, he's like very open to helping other people.
Giving back.
Yeah. And then I think that's important, like for us in business or not in business, like to be able to have that mentality and mindset.
I think there's a story behind that story, because it's to me, it's not the fact that he was being unusual and doing it. That was unusual. Okay, because not everybody is like that. But it's the fact that you asked, the fact that you contacted him in the first place. Yeah, and to me it shouldn't be unusual, but I'm finding that some people might not do that.
True. And maybe it's part of my mindset. Like I'm also, always in this mindset that I've got nothing to lose. If I ask, it's 50-50. If I don't, it's 0.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's same with business. Like, you know, when we go out and, you know, I'm in a sales role, when we go talk to people, it's not always going to be, hey, you know, you can come in and do our implementation or, you know, we'll give the business to you, especially when we're not the market leader or, you know, the known players, right? A lot of people don't know who we are. And I think, you know, if I go and talk to people, it's 50-50. If I don't, it's 0.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So how do you cultivate that mindset?
It's not easy because no one wants to fail, right? And I think it's, I often encourage my team to have the mentality of, you know, don't be afraid to fail. Like whether it's like going out to pitch business or whether to do anything, to try anything. You know, failures only tell you what you need to, you know, do better next time. It's not defining who you are.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that's like, you know, the mindset that, you know, I try to incorporate in my dealings with my my team. But it's not easy. I find like, you know, maybe in Asia, kids like, you know, from school and all that, the education systems, it's always about success. You gotta be like, you know, number one. You gotta be like, you know, going to like Ivy League school. Otherwise, like, you know, people don't learn how to fail. And I think like, you know, being able to face that and handle that, that's important.
I think you are so right there. But there's something else that you said there. You said in Asia, and I think it goes beyond Asia, is that in school we're told to be successful, which means the following.
Yeah.
Get into that Ivy League school, get into the top schools, go to university,
Right.
join these type of companies. And, you know, when we go back to that question I asked you earlier, like, how do you define success?
Yeah.
That isn't success. Okay, that's a type of success, or maybe it's an indoctrinated success. But as individuals, we define our own success.
Absolutely.
Okay, and we're not taught that.
No. No, we're not.
Yeah, you need to learn that the hard way. And I was doing a podcast with one of your colleagues, and I got a very, very similar answer. In the, you know, success is what we define it for ourselves. And they were also very happy. You are also happy. And one of the things that I've observed in the podcasts that I've been doing is those people who have actually worked out what success is, they tend to be a lot happier than those people who haven't worked it out yet. And it isn't just the people that I interview or the hosts who interview me. I'm finding, in one of the other hats I wear as an executive coach, and when I coach C-level people, I'm finding especially exceedingly high achievers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're struggling, some of them, to define what success means,
Mm-hmm.
because we get maybe indoctrinated through education of success means getting to the top of something, and it becomes a automatic reaction to do. Yeah, and those people are not so happy. It's sad.
It is, and I think, like, to add on that, like, I'm a big fan of an author or podcaster as well called Simon Sinek, and
Simon.
One of his books was Starting with Why,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really understanding something, like understanding the why. That's the more important piece. And I see people like, I see a lot of salespeople. And if their why is to make quota or, to just push the numbers, like they are in a very miserable cycle.
Yeah. No.
And, in the long term, I don't see them being happy with the job, and I don't see them successful in the job.
Ooh, sounds like a new learning here. The success for salespeople. All right. It sounds like you've got some tips for them and on what the mindset should really be.
I don't know whether I can. I'm not a qualified salesperson, I would say. Yeah, I think it's like anything we do. I think understanding the why is important. It's very very important. And the why has got to be bigger than something that's doing something to do with yourself. It's going to be something that's a bigger objective.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I'm a great fan of Simon Sinek as well, and the why, that book it triggered a lot, and it really triggered another word for why is purpose, or what the point is. And it's interesting how even corporations now are sort of moving aside with their vision, mission, okay, and it's really focusing, what is our why, what is our purpose, what's the point of all of this?
Yeah.
And as you said, because if there's no real point to it, like making a number, sorry, what? That's not a purpose. You got to have that purpose.
Yeah.
And if that purpose is for someone else, that's a far more powerful purpose.
Absolutely.
So, do you have a purpose? Do you have a life purpose?
My life purpose. Well, personally, I would say my purpose is to raise, to do with my family, to raise my son to be a good person in this society and be able to contribute to society. That's one of my purposes in life.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Professionally, it's always been if I can help my customers or the company that I'm working with be more successful. One of my mentors or previous bosses said to me, it's you got to think about the legacy that you leave behind.
Exactly.
And that's something that stuck with me over the years, and it's been over 20 years that I've worked with him. And, it's the legacy that you want to leave behind.
And what legacy do you want to leave behind?
Well, I obviously I want Infor Hospitality to be in a better shape or better place than when I joined, and to have our customers being happy with going with us and trusting us. I think that's something that, from a professional level, that would be the legacy I want to leave behind. And and also they would say, hey, I used to work with this guy Eric, and we're still friends. And it's funny because I just visited Manila last week, and the VPIT of Mandarin Oriental in Asia, he's retired, and he's doing some part-time work. But I met up with him, and we had a great lunch together. And it's fantastic to be able to do that.
Well, so you're already creating the legacy. People are embracing it. They're coming back to you. So it's a relationship thing as well.
Yeah.
They're not going to come back to you unless you have that relationship, unless you've helped them in some way.
True. I think the legacy, everyone's legacy, it's built every day. Whatever we do every day, it's gonna leave a mark, whether you know it or not, right? At some point, you may look back and say, "Hey, that meant something."
Absolutely. I mean, I tend to say, absolutely everything that we do, it doesn't matter if it's big or if it's small. Okay, is shaping who you are.
Yeah.
It's actually your brand.
Yeah.
Okay, whether you like it or not, and it's not what you think you are doing, it's how others are perceiving all your actions, big or small, and how they are perceiving it. That is because what other people think of you is who you end up being.
Yeah.
All right. So that's why I like the fact that you have this purpose of really helping others. It's not about ourselves, it's about helping someone else. In your case, helping companies become more successful. My life purpose used to be helping individuals to become more successful.
And what's your purpose now?
It changed. I still coach people and help people to become successful, but I tend to work with high achievers or hyperachievers, and it's just I realize that I'm just fueling a fire, but it's not filling the hole. Okay, so it's changed from helping individuals achieve that consistently higher achievement, which I can do that anyway, and it's gone beyond that.
Right.
Because to me the step beyond that is achieving balanced fulfillment.
Yeah.
So this balance, and you were talking about balance, or I'll reframe what you were saying before as balance. You're saying, hey, your family is important to you, all right? Relationships are important to you. Your health is important to you, okay? That they're three major elements that you've pulled out in your lifestyle that keeps you in check, keeps you in balance. And by doing that, they sort of help fuel each other, and that's why you're happy. And there's a purpose behind it. And so I see that as balance.
Right.
And when you achieve that balance, and it doesn't really matter what your balance is, if you achieve it, you feel better, you feel happier, you feel more fulfilled. And if you don't achieve the balance, or it suddenly gets out of balance, then we don't feel very good. We don't feel very happy. We don't feel very fulfilled.
Very true.
So I've made that slight pivot. It's taken an awful long time to realize that.
Interesting.
So thank you. So thank you, Eric, for answering all of my questions. I did answer the one question that you asked me, and I'll give you one more chance to ask me one other question.
Okay.
If you have any.
Well,
or we can stop there.
Well, I have a lot of respect for you, and I know you've built,
nice.
the business TRG. It's very well known in Vietnam. If you have to do it all over again, what would you do differently?
Okay. I do probably two things differently. and it is actually related to balance. Okay, when I was younger, and because I was educated to work hard and achieve, I think my definition of achievement and success were a little bit off target. I only found out a couple of years ago that I was a hyperachiever. I didn't actually realize that. And when I was asked that question, am I successful, then my answer was, of course, obviously not. So I had it really messed up. And this balance thing is so important. So I've realized that for decades, I've been completely out of balance. Okay? But I've been fueling things on the few things that I've focused on. And yeah, they might have done pretty well. But it's at the cost of everything else.
Right.
And so there are regrets. There are big regrets.
Right.
So I think it's taking a much, if I had to do it all over again, I'd take a much more holistic view of things and make sure that there is balance in my life. And yeah, and family and relationships are important. But if you get too laser focused on some corporate silly target, sorry, corporates, and TRG, is that sometimes you can damage relationships that you have, and you really shouldn't do that. You could live to regret it, and don't ever do that. It doesn't feel good. So I would try and make sure I get that balance in my own life, and try and ensure that there's, in the things that I'm focusing on, like companies, is they need to be in balance as well. The people in them need to be in balance. And, maybe I move a little bit too quickly because I'm impatient. I'm more patient these days. And so in the past, I've been running ahead, leaving people behind. But that is not, again, that's completely out of balance.
Right.
So I think to do it again, I'd maintain my own balance, and it would have been great if I could have done the whole journey not by myself, and with some partners that would do it.
Right.
I think again, I'm a bit not a bit. I'm rather entrepreneurial, and I just go shooting off in different directions because I just get carried away, and it's taken me decades to work out, well, I don't have that energy anymore, that's for sure. It's probably far, far, far more enjoyable if I did it with someone else or with other people.
Good.
Okay. Hence, all the partnering we seem to be doing at the moment, because I'm just refusing for us to do it ourselves anymore. So that's the change.
Good.
That's the change.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Eric. So that brings us to the end of today's podcast. My guest has been the wonderful and successful Mr. Eric Wong, Vice President of Infor Hospitality. Thank you again, and see you again next time.